Hi everyone. It's been a while since I've streamed. I have been sick. I got the flu. That was terrible. I still have a cold sore. I'm recovering from it. So that put me out of action. And I'm still so out of it, so tired all the time. So I'm sorry for the low energy. And then before that, what happened? I was on a trip to the US for maybe 3 weeks or maybe longer. And when I was there, um, I ended up basically quitting my job. Probably shouldn't have gone, huh? Probably better if I just didn't go. I'd still have a job. The people were nice. I think the problem was just that, like, it wasn't a good match. It was like I've become more and more like anti capitalist and like these guys are in the valley, Silicon Valley, and they're all super like startup mentality and like I felt like I was getting yelled at for not using more AI in development. And I was like, oh my God, this doesn't make me feel good. So, yeah, we ended up parting ways amicably. So it wasn't like I don't think I really burned bridges doing that. When we were like trying to figure out afterwards when would be my end date, they were like, oh, maybe in a few weeks, finish off this project. And then I was thinking about it and I was like, you know what? It's just, how about today? How about today's my last day? And they were fine with that. So I just stopped. I was thinking back, like, was it like a rash decision? Was it like emotional? I don't think so. I think it was the right decision. But since then, I've just been in a funk and not really getting much done. All the things that I usually love, like you've seen this channel maybe, like I love playing around with languages. Probably my biggest complaint is like a lot of them I don't end up actually using enough for a project, but I just love playing with languages. And now I just don't feel like doing anything right now. So it makes it a little bit hard. Let me bring up a dashboard here so I can even see what's going on. Okay. So I figured like I'll just pull the trigger and stream and then just see like what should I possibly stream. Let me look at my list of things and maybe something will spark some interest. If you guys have any ideas for something you want to see, just say it in chat and we can play around with the language. I did two talks recently. Maybe I talked about it before. I did a talk that's live on YouTube now on Nerves, Elixir Nerves, which was a fun talk. It was at Goatmeyer, so if you type Goatmeyer one word, Elise Nerves, you'd probably find it. And then I did another talk at Codebeam EU, and that was more of a soft talk. Nerves is embedded programming with Elixir. Um, I did another talk on like I can't remember the title exactly, but it was really about like guide to succeeding in jobs and so forth as a developer. I've seen this. I've seen lots of like I've been working for a while. I've managed people. I hire people, and I've seen like what works, what doesn't work, and for some people, I see them like suffering a lot. Like, why am I not getting what I want, etc. Um, So I did a talk on that. And now I'm trying to figure out like what talk should I do for this upcoming season because a lot of the conferences are sort of like there's call for participation now and you kind of have to figure out what you want to talk about. I really, really, really love the Beam, like Gleam, Erlang, Elixir. I love that crowd, like going to the conference and hanging out with people who are into that. Like, it's so fun. I feel like when I go to other conferences, and I've gone to many, like I used to, work both in medical and in game industry. And, game conferences are fun, but like it's such a spectacle all the time. I mean, they're okay, but like whether they're really big budget or whether they're like it's kind of flashy, but like this Elixir and Beam stuff just feels like people who want to get stuff done and hack on stuff, and it feels really nice. So I want to be more involved in that community in general, but I'm not really sure what to talk about. I feel like I need a meaty project that I work on in Elixir or Erlang or Gleam, and so that I could talk about it more. But I'm not really sure what I want to do. I'm thinking about building like a back-end game engine that you could use to like store state and maybe have some services for. Like I did a startup working on MMORPG servers, so I could like bring a lot of that to Elixir. Or I was thinking of building like a NetHack sort of game just for fun. Maybe that's something that I should do. Maybe I should write some of this stuff down. NetHack game sounds pretty straightforward and, kind of easy to do. Because you can even use ASCII if you wanted to. But a game server might be something more useful for other people too. So that could be cool. I really wanted to also play around with like writing parts of Discord, like an alternative, just maybe for chat messages. So that's something else. And that would work really well with Elixir and so forth. God, my mind's all over the place, right? So let's see here. Stuff. There's languages that I like streaming. I've done Nix. I still haven't played with Flakes. Hi there, Plush Plush. How are you? What are you into? Is there tech or languages you're into? I've done a lot of Nix, and one thing that I haven't talked much about is, or haven't looked into, is Nix Flakes. That's something I should learn about. I can try to learn Gleam again. Haskell's been something I've been looking at. I haven't used Rust in a long time, and so much has changed, so maybe I should redo Rust. I was thinking of like, there's Zig. I don't think I want to learn Zig though. A lot of people talk about OCaml, but if I'm going to learn OCaml, I might as well learn Haskell first? There's all the 8-bit assembly languages. I think I'm going to try to submit a talk for. Ah, tu parles français aussi? C'est super ça. Tu viens de la France ou ailleurs, au Québec? Um, yeah, maybe I should do more assembly language. I was thinking maybe of just doing some like I have a training in reverse engineering. I wrote malware. Oh my God. That's something I know nothing about. How'd you get into that? How did you kind of get into that? Oh, in Switzerland. So do you live near Geneva? I've been to Geneva several times because that's like the French speaking main city, right? Um, I'm sorry, I just have not figured out how to like Geneva. Like, there's the water area and they have that little like fountain that's spitting up stuff. It's like a tourist attraction. They have some gardens there. And then I walk around, there's chocolate shops, but the chocolates in France are just as good. Um, and just walking around the city itself, maybe I'm in the wrong part, just doesn't feel as cute. Like it's more spread apart. You have to walk more, you get tired. I don't know. I think I need to find someone who really gets, oh, closer to the French border. So is that closer to Lyon? All right, I'm just gonna fucking do COBOL because I don't like all the other ones feel like work. I know COBOL's like this kind of shitty language, so let's kind of just figure out how to get started with COBOL here. Mhm. Let's fuck around with COBOL. Okay, I need to. Hi there, Lepak Ngamba. Lepak, Lepak. How are you? I think we're gonna do some COBOL today, so I'm gonna try to figure out how to get um set up here for COBOL real quick. I will share my screen in a minute. All right. One can dream, right? The funny thing is like everyone talks about AI sort of like stealing jobs. And, it's so hard to get a job. And then like you have at the same time the story of like there's nobody to write COBOL code anymore. Everyone's retired and no one's learning COBOL. Oh, is the mic volume too low? Yeah, sure. Test, 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 test. That seems like that's better. That's as high as it gets. I could also talk a little bit closer. Um, but yeah, so like AI is taking the jobs, and then there's like COBOL, and you have all these. They're like, we need some people who know COBOL. Um, but I think that's gonna end up being what like programming is like. People are gonna be like, oh, the AI does that, but we need some real programmers. It's like, well, no one ever learned programming anymore, so all the senior developers retired. Now we have no one who can actually like architect new code. So why not start with start with the language that's already dying. Hi there. Thanks. I was saying in the beginning of this stream that I've been sick. I got the flu for like a while. I went on a trip for work for 3 weeks. I quit my job. I'm still sort of like mentally processing all this. It's weird to not have a job, but I do have a job that's like 10 hours a week, but like I was supposed to have started last week and I just can't like write code right now. And maybe it's just like, it's amazing. I swear to God, it's amazing that like I can be a professional developer. I really don't get it. Like, I wake up at noon. Half the time I do bullshit. I was supposed to have started this project last week. I basically went radio silent on them. Yeah, it's kind of, getting close to the holidays, but Jesus Christ, like, I think I'm just super lucky. Or what it means is like, what it really means is that like your talent is only half, or less half of the equation. Really, like what counts so much is like how well you network with people. And I am fucking amazing at networking. Like, if I go to a conference or I go to like an event or I meet people for a meetup, like, it's just naturally what I do and I love it. Hey, Findus. I set up an Elixir meetup. I posted it on Blue Sky and Fediverse, and like 6 people came. I posted it like the day before, and we just hung out and had drinks, and I met a whole bunch of people. That was nice, and I just love doing that. So like when people know you and you're in their mind, like I swear to God, they just hire you or just get you to do stuff, and like that counts for so much, especially when like what I hear from like these jobs now is like if you apply online that like it's just hell. So just knowing people is so nice, so useful. All right, let's try to bring up a browser here. All right. Um I'm not professional enough to kind of make this automatic or have set this up beforehand. Okay. Let's see what happens. All right, well that almost worked, doesn't it? Holy shit. It almost works. All right, this is a little too big. We make that smaller. Oh, my mother's calling me. But I'm streaming, Mom. Mom, I'm streaming. Leave me alone. Jesus. All right, so where the fuck does one learn COBOL? Do I have COBOL installed? No, I don't have COBOL. So let's type in COBOL here, see what comes up. GNU COBOL, that seems like a good way to go, right? Does COBOL have... Oh, I can't write. Does COBOL have a language server? Guys, there's no fucking COBOL in here. Maybe it's under GNU COBOL. Nope. COBOL has no language server. Fuck, how are we gonna write code? Yeah, I know. I need a giant computer, but I have a video where I'm trying to learn COBOL on an IBM System Z mainframe. It was hell. It was hell. Like, I can't even tell you how shitty the experience was. I was in tears. I was so frustrated. And that's because I was basically trying to learn a terrible language on a terrible OS, right? Like, mainframes make no fucking sense. Um, so my lesson learned from that is, if you're gonna learn COBOL, just learn the language first, and then you can learn a mainframe if you want to afterwards. Emacs COBOL mode, guys, we might have to end up learning Emacs again. It's been so long since I've used Emacs. All right. So we're going to put GNU COBOL in here. Oh my God, COBOL. Now we will, yeah, if you don't know about Nix, Nix is really cool. It's Linux distribution that's declarative. So it's fully reproducible. This way you know what you have is what you have. I mean, it's not really true, right? Because it'll install things. But what if those things that you install have some dynamic stuff that they pull in later? It's not going to really solve that. But in general, it does. And if those things expose configuration variables, all the better. Oh, the other thing that I think that's really affecting my mood, not just being sick, not just like quitting my job. I mean, it's more than quitting. It was like we couldn't agree on something. So, it wasn't like just 100% me. Anyway, I've never did a series on Elixir because like I already learned it and I kind of like I fucking wish that I could like make videos where I edit them and I actually teach some of the stuff I've learned. That would be so awesome. But I'm not interested in that. Like, it's a little bit like, is it that I don't care about you enough? Is it that I'm too selfish? I just enjoy learning things. I enjoy sharing what I learn. I like talking about things, but like, I'd rather do that at a conference. I hate editing videos. So, like, I don't know. But yeah, we should do an Elixir one sometime. I mean, we could do it now. We could fucking do it now. Do it live. Maybe I did do an Elixir one once. No? I don't know. Let's see. Let's see if we can get started on this. Uh, Learning? No. Docs? Here we go. This is where you should learn. There. Elixir. You guys want to learn some Elixir? We can learn some Elixir together. Learn Elixir. You know what I hate, guys? Like, you're seeing these typos. So I got these nails done. They're really long because I was on this flight. This is like when I was going to the US, right? And I ended up being in the middle seat, which I hate. I hate being in the middle seat, right? I hate it so much. But then, unlike most flights, the two people beside me were women. They're usually men, you know, because it's like business flights and usually there's like disproportionate men, whatever. But it's like two women, they take no space and they're not on the armrest. So I'm like, holy shit, this is so nice. Like I'm not even disliking that I'm in a middle seat. And then the woman to my left, she's like, she has these beautiful nails. So I'm like, holy shit, where'd you get your nails? And she goes, I am obsessed with my nails. There's this thing in the US that's called Après Gel X. And Gel X is the name of the system that they use to put these like gel tips that they make and then they carve it out and then they polish it and everything. Um, so I got it done, but I've never had nails this long before, and I can't like see, I can't type very well on them. So somehow it causes like when I type something, A B C D E F G H I J K L M N O P Q R S. Yeah, you see the S? Like somehow it ends up double tapping. I don't mean zombies either. Like it's double tapping the characters on this mechanical keyboard. So I end up having a shit ton of typos. It's the downside with nails. Anyway, where were we? Elixir minus version. You know, honestly, if you can't figure out how to install Elixir, then you need a lot more than a tutorial. So I'm going to skip that part, right? Um, Elixir. Okay, so Elixir basically is a language that is built on top of Erlang. What that means is Elixir code eventually turns into Erlang code that runs on Beam, which is the virtual machine for it. But Elixir actually doesn't like just spit out Erlang code. It does AST manipulation at the Erlang level. So it's kind of like pretty deep integration into Erlang. Whereas Gleam, for instance, is another language that's built on top of Beam, but as far as I understand, it outputs directly into Erlang. So there you have it. There is a REPL for Elixir called IEX, which I guess stands for interactive Elixir. So you type that in, and then you're basically in REPL, and you can do things that most REPLs allow you to do. What languages have REPL that are really popular? Does Python have a REPL? I don't have Python. Fuck, I don't have Python. I don't even know. Um, yeah, I don't even know what languages. I know like JavaScript, you can type it in a browser, right? So Node, does Node.js, does Node have it? Wait, I probably have Dino, right? Yeah, here we go. There we go. So that's a REPL, and it even says REPL. Read, execute, print, loop, right? This is where you can win like nerd. Um, Dino is just another JavaScript Node runtime. No, yeah, I could install Python, but I'm not gonna install Python. I don't want it. I don't want it on my system, and I even don't want it temporarily. Yes, I honestly don't think I've written a line of Python in years. So, all right. So, wow, this is going off to a fucking slow start. So, yeah, we are in a REPL. We can do normal things, and we can type in strings. Those are strings, and yeah, let's just move on here. This is super important. You know, it's like basically printf. So IO is the library and put string is here. And we can just type in hello world. Notice that like you don't put any semicolon at the end. It looks like a lot of these functional languages that don't have anything at the end, you know, like Haskell or whatever. When we were playing with Erlang, that did have a lot of line terminators. When you have this inside of a program, though, I don't think this will like actually put in a new line. So you probably want to put a new line if you want to say something else. Um, yeah, it's simple. I think that's pretty straightforward also. And if you want to execute something, you can run an Elixir on a script. This is like, I almost never do this because Elixir, the command is really learning a script. So that's why you see the EXS here, Elixir script. Whereas most of the time you're going to run a project and there you're not going to be running it like this. So let's move on. What do you want to build, Captain? I want to build a NetHack clone, I think. So basically, I had 3 things on my list from earlier. Were you here? I have 3 things. A NetHack game, and I think if we did it in Elixir, I would use like live view and just like update the screen, you know, with ASCII codes in some monospace font. Or I was thinking of building a game server that like, because I had a startup where we built an MMORPG game server. And so I did that in Java, hated, you know, Java, but I know how they work. It might be cool to build just a generic game server first in Elixir or Erlang or Gleam or something, or whatever language. Or I kind of like think maybe the world needs a Discord alternative. So I was thinking of like just playing with something that can just do the text chat that Discord has, not worry about all the voice stuff. Anyway, those are some project ideas. All right, so what do we have here? Integers, floats, Boolean. Yeah, Boolean, lowercase true, lowercase false. Atoms are with colons in front of it. So that's just an atom. We'll see more of those later. A string is in double quotes. Nothing exciting here. A list, 1, 2, 3, 4, just in brackets. And a tuple is basically an ordered, is kind of like an ordered list. The thing to note is that these things don't have to be uniform, like in other languages. The types have to be uniform in a list, but here we can have anything we want, including another list in here. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. Arithmetic. So nothing exciting here. Div will basically give you integer division. So, you know, there's that. And remainder gives you the remainder. Binary, octal, hexadecimal notation. Scientific notation. I don't remember ever using this a single time. Okay, now we're just getting into functions. Who cares? Then there's a whole bunch of things called guards. And these are basically Boolean functions that can tell you stuff about the data you have. So, whatever. We'll get more into those later. Boolean's a nil. So you can use the equal operator. True is equal to true. True equals 1. No, it's not. True equals true. True. True is basically an atom. Um, and so, you know, um, there are logical operators here, like and or. Let's keep going. Not so interested in all of these. Here are atoms. We can compare atoms. Atoms are all, like, they're singletons, so they're only going to equal to themselves. Strings here. Okay, so this is important. Concatenation operator. So we can have A, B, C, D, E, F, and you see that it concatenates the two together. This is an interpolation, and so we can have A, B, C, and then we can interpolate. Let's say we put X in here, right? So there's no X, so we're going to have to do X is equal to DEF. And now we do this, and now you can see it puts in the value of X in here. Let's not get too fancy. And these things can be different types. Hello world. io.puts foo is equal to X. So you see here that this string got interpolated with where it got X and put it in there, and that X was up here, right? Unlike Erlang, we can rebind X, right? And then when we do this again, you'll see that it uses the new X. It's good and bad. I feel like this is just very practical. So it's kind of nice. Then we have some functions. I don't know why they teach you so many functions in the beginning. Like, who really cares? Len, there is no such import. Was there not a len? Anyway, nothing here is surprising. So let's go on. Linked list. So we already showed this. Oh, there is a length here. Look at that. I thought I did this. It's not a list? I thought binaries were lists. Well. So if I give it a list here now, let's make a list. Apple, corn, and dog. So now we have a list of 3 atoms, right? Now I can do length A, and it says 3. Not so surprising here. Concatenation for lists is the plus plus operator. So I can give it another list here, maybe A and A. And now you see that it repeats itself because it's concatenating A and A again with itself. I'm just going to oh, why is it making that sound? Stop. Let me turn that off. Okay. So this notation is super useful. This is basically adding to prepending something to the head of a list. So I'm adding me into A. So you can see that me is now in A, right? And obviously you can like hard code this in here. And this is like a constant time operation because a list is a linked list and we have a pointer to the first element. And if we want to append to the end of a list, you know what I mean? Like that is expensive. Like if we put me at the end of this list, we would basically be doing this, right? And it's going to have to basically iterate all of the first list and add me to the end. Okay, and there is a minus minus operator too, which I don't think I barely ever use. And there's head and tail. Head is going to give you the first element of the list. So if we have A, you see it's apple, corn. And tail is going to, what the functions, who cares? No, what I meant is like why are they telling you about standard library functions when you should kind of learn the basic types of the language? You know what I mean? Because for me, I don't know if it's because I'm autistic, but I'm like, anything you tell me right now, I'm going to try to memorize. And like, do I really need to memorize these extra functions that you're telling me about right now? You know, like that I can look up later. But if they're core to the language, like super core right now to the language and to the type, that's great. I think that head, as you can see, is part of the prelude, which is like imported directly, right? So length, head, all of this stuff is super useful. And tail is going to give you, not list, is going to give you corn and dog. It's basically everything but the head, right? And notice that head is going to give you element type, not a list necessarily. It's only going to return you a list if the first element is a list. But tail is always going to return you a list, unless it's a malformed list. All right. Um, I is really useful because it tells you information about the thing that you are dealing with. Um, but I don't use it much, so I don't think it matters. Tuples, here we go. Tuples are used a lot like this because basically as return value types, you know how Rust has result types or you have options or whatever. And so you have the OK, like the success type, and you have the fail type. Well, in Elixir, the convention is often that return from functions that can like have problems or fail. They will have OK as the first parameter of a tuple if it works, and then otherwise it'll be like error. You know, it'll look like error and then some reason here. And that reason is probably a string of some sort or some data structure, right? So yeah. Um, element is how you pull shit out of the tuple. So if we have error reason and we call this t, and I do element t comma 0, I'll get error, which is the first element. And if I do 1, I get reason. If I get 2, I probably get an exception. All right. Put element. All right. There's ways to put stuff that I rarely use. List or tuples. When do you use them? Well, if things can grow in size, then make them a list. If you know that it's always going to be a certain position and set, use a tuple. Don't be stupid. um, yeah, split works nicely. A lot of these things have multiple parameters, like optional parameters. So you see here it just says split, but then there's split plus pattern, so you can call it like different ways. But yeah, so string, which is a library, a module, split, foo bar, I get a list foo and bar. And since this is a list, I can then call length on it. And since it's a list, I can call head on it. All right, so it's telling us about that. There's a file thing to read files. This is useful when you're doing Advent of Code because you're going to get input from a file. Size or length. I think size. Well, if I'm using a linked list, I use length. Now, this is where it starts getting amazing because pattern matching is why we use these languages. They're so amazing. So, yeah, like if you know that x is 1, right? And let's say you have a function, you might actually say 1 is equal to x. Why do you do that? Because you're basically asserting something. And the pattern matching is basically saying, yeah, they're the same. 1 is x. So that works. So if I have a tuple now, what was my tuple? T? Right. So in my tuple, I can basically have something like status, comma value, right? Equals T. And now if I type status, you see that it got error because T was basically error reason, and then it's trying to match it into status and value. So now status has the actual value error because of pattern matching. Does that make sense? And when we don't care about something, we might just do this, right? Like we don't care, we're not going to use values, so we're not going to do anything. And now I can just, have an if statement or a case statement, switch statement around status. And obviously I can now match status like this. But in code where I expect it to be okay, I could do something like this and it'll give me a match error. And that's okay. Like you'll see in Elixir, like it's okay to assert things and for it to crash because Elixir has this whole way of like healing itself. Does that all make sense? You guys probably already know all of this. Yeah, so here's where it failed the match just like I did. We can pattern match on lists. So yeah, we did tuples, right? So what was a list? So we can match like oops, that's not good. All right, so XA is now going to be apple, B is going to be corn, and C is going to be dog. And remember, we also learned about the head, sort of like how we can construct a list that way. Like I did something like this, I think, right? And that constructed it. We can use that same thing to pattern match. So we can do like first thing, and then we can say I don't care about the rest equals A. And so first thing is going to be apple, right? And if we actually cared about the rest, we can say rest thing. And that will be corn and dog. Yeah, they did the same thing here. This is kind of nice. You see this XX11? It's basically saying that whatever they are, they have to be the same. So it's a nice way to, it's kind of like a tricksy way of saying that. All right, pin operator. So you notice like here where let's do we have an x? X is 1 just like they have it, right? Um but if I do x is 2, what's going to happen? It just changed what x is. Um but that's not what we want to do. We don't want it to assign something. So let's bring it back to 1 and then we do the pin operator x is equal to 2. And you can see that it's basically saying x, whatever the value is not 2 because it's 1. So if I make x is equal to 2 now, and I call this, it's fine. So this is basically pinning the value of x into what we're using. How do they say it? When you want to pattern match against a variable's existing value rather than rebinding the variable. Yeah, otherwise it's going to change that. Now, obviously one way to make that simpler is just to put it on the other way, because now we know we're not trying to rebind, right? So, but sometimes when you do matching, you're gonna want to use this. Like so here, we're asserting that the value of x is 1. Oh, you don't what? You don't what? What happened? What did I miss? What part did I miss or not understand or not explain well? Or are you commenting on something else? See, when I know something already, I feel like I suck at explaining this. How bad is this, guys? Like, does it feel like shit to you guys? I feel like I'm way more interesting when I'm like explaining a language, when I'm like learning the language. Maybe it's funnier too because I'm like, what the fuck's going on? But this feels like I'm just like, bah, this is stupid. Anyway, let's keep going. God, if anyone learns Elixir this way, I should go to jail. So this is really sweet. Look at this. Like case, it's basically like the switch statement, right? And you're giving it some variable here. And then you're going to give it the various choices. So let's make a little shit. What's the best way to do this? A sample hello. All right. So at least we can like write some code in an editor. Oh, okay. You said that most of us in the channel would know this, but I commented on the fact this is all new to me. It's complex. Oh, that's excellent. I'm glad. I don't remember what I was saying you would all know. But if you have any questions, let me know. I thought I explained most of the things. I think I have this internal fear a lot of times that I'm stating such obvious things that I'm really, really boring. So maybe I say things like that, like, you guys all know this. but maybe you don't, and that's totally okay. All right. So here we have a function. Let's just return x. Okay. So we're gonna find out about how all of this stuff works later. But I just wanted, so just ignore this. This is a function in here, and I just want to put this code in somewhere so we can reuse it easily. So the function name is hello, and we're going to have a case statement here. Case x, do. And now case statements end. So it's going to match things like if x is foo, then return bar. Otherwise, this matches everything, right? This says no idea what you said. There we go. So let's try running this again. And then we do sample hello and we go foo. And notice it says bar. But if I change foo and I say hello, it's like no idea what you said. And that in general is the case statement, right? We can add some more in here like Tom. And this thing can say Harry. And so when we do sample dot hello Tom, it's going to say Harry. What is this website made for? You mean what is this language made for? Elixir is oh, that's a great question, Rolltux. I will get into that in just a second. Elixir as a language is a general purpose language, but it's not really great for client side work. Like you wouldn't make a game, front end game with it. It has a very popular web platform called Phoenix and LiveView, which I love. It's just really easy to program in. But like where the language itself shines is, I think, in distributed programming. So WhatsApp and Discord, a lot of these kind of like really scalable systems use it because it's really easy to write distributed code on, and it's also really good for monitoring and scaling of those systems. I think that's the main thing I would say that this language is really good for. It's not like it's run on a VM, so it's slower than say Rust, which compiles to binary code. And to answer the other question about immutable is there's no like if I have a list here, there's no way for me to like modify that list. If I make a new list from that, right? Like I do another, like I do 0A. Now I have a new list, right? I can assign this to B. So A is still this list and B is this other list. There, if I rebind A to something else, like the number 10, then B is not changed at all. They're totally independent of each other. So if you have a map even, or a list, or a tuple, once you actually create it, it cannot change. So that's the immutable part. but the rebinding part is separate. That just means that this symbol, like B, I can change to 10 and then I can change to 11, but it doesn't change the object that it's pointing to. You see, that's the difference. It's that when you create an object, it never changes. So when a function gets in a parameter, for instance, where was our code? Did I kill it? Like this x that comes in, x can never change. I can rebind what x is pointing to, but the actual value of x doesn't change. So you know that it's whatever you got in. Yeah, so some language don't even let you do rebinding. That's like another choice. But Elixir allows you to do that. Does that make sense? I'm explaining it because somebody, like, I was gonna learn COBOL, but I don't remember who was saying, like, hey, have you ever talked about Elixir, like, as a language? And I don't think I ever have. So, but I already know Elixir, so I'm more explaining it than learning it. Yeah, so just going through it here. And so you can see here, hello, x could be anything. Right now I'm passing in a string, right? So if I run this, and I call sample.hello and I pass in the number 3, it's going to say I have no idea what you said because it doesn't match the first two here. That's where guards come in, and we can talk about that in a little bit. But let's assume that we're always going to get in something that's in the form of status and value, right? So the really funny thing is here is, notice how I am. No, let me make this easier. Let's do it like this. X, and then we're going to do case X. And then here we will do and we can have an error here. We can say we got an error. We can kind of just do this. I think this should compile. And now I can do sample.hello. And now we're going to pass in a tuple. Okay. 42. So it says got value 42. And if I say error 42 or 50, whatever, right? It says got error. And if I type anything else, it says no idea what you said. So let's take a look. Remember, the first one I passed in was this, OK 42. So X got passed in and it matches with this. This is the actual like absolute matching here. The first one is actually literally the atom OK. And then value here, we're pattern matching and it's putting the 42 into the value. And then I return this string that says got value and it interpolates the value into the string. And the second one is error, right? I did error 50 or something like that. And it just says got error, it drops the second value. And when I typed in an extra parameter, it's like, I don't know what you said. So it's not fuzzy. It's pattern matching. It's actually very precise. But yeah, it's able to do this. But notice that I did it at this level, right? The cool thing about Elixir is you can put these things in the actual parameter too, right? So I can say this function only handles OK value, right? And then it's going to return got value val. So now when I call this, and I pass in OK42, you see it says got value. But now if I pass in error, it says, hey, I have no function clause that matches that. And that's because functions can actually have several clauses. So we can do this, and then we can do error, and I can say now got error val, and then I can even make a default version that takes in anything else and say what so now when I run it, you saw like it was like OK44 that says got value, and then when I do error 1, it says got error, and I type in anything else that doesn't really match the pattern that it thought, and it says what is that? What's my code here? The hell? Why is it saying this? Oh, this must be a Unicode problem. I am confused though. There we go. It says what now? I have no idea how what question mark, question mark, question mark. Maybe question mark is a control character of some sort? No idea. We'll just ignore that and we'll continue. No, tuples are, this is a tuple. So like you can have like A, B, and then I can have, X is equal to AB. And then I can get elements out of this. So it's a little bit like an array, except you can't actually add anything or remove anything from it. They are fixed position and fixed size. A list looks like this, and it has operators such as this, which will concatenate something, or you can also add something to the very beginning of a list like this, and you see this adds the 10 in front of this list, which gets returned by concatenating 1, 2, 3, and 4 together. That's how we end up with 10, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can call length on lists. And yeah, so they're slightly different. Tuples are often used as return status codes. Oh yeah, and we have head and tail that works on lists. So Head is the first element, and tail is the rest of the elements in the list. Merry Christmas. I don't think in, say, Haskell tuples are polymorphic over size. Yeah, I don't think so. I think the same for Erlang, in fact. I'm going to get some more soda. So how about you guys? Are you guys like working somewhere? Do you have like software jobs? Are you in school? Kind of curious what y'all backgrounds are. You know what I'm so impressed with? I feel like on Blue Sky and Fediverse, like the people who are in university now, like talking about stuff, they're so smart. Like, it's like they'll know compiler stuff. They'll like write their own languages and stuff. And I'm like, holy shit, like you're still in school and you're doing so much stuff, you know? Yeah, you wrote your own language. You guys are so smart. Um, so what are you guys doing now? Like working between jobs? Um, all right. So Foo's gonna take in um a variable, and we'll use the if statement. If x is equal to, let's say if it's less than 100, then we say small, else we say big. So there we have our foo statement. So if I pass in the number 2, it says small. Pass in number 100, it says big. Not too exciting, right? Like that's our if statement. So just like you saw that I did with the functions, you don't need to, if you want, you can put these all in one line. I think this is no. Where's my fucking, oh, it's here. Syntax error, incomplete. Do I need this? I can never remember the syntax. Come on. Are we gonna see it? Where is it? If true do expressions. Ah, here it is. Here it is. If I see. If comma, that's I had that, do, and then we do comma again. Else. Yeah, I had it right here. There we go. So that would be the inline version. All right. All right, cool. Now we're down to maps, which is really nice. Maps are really nice. What is what? In operations, managed hosting provider, doing Linux stuff, Kubernetes, etc. And now on call. C++ developer. Cool. Let's see. Wow, I got a lot of stuff here. Sorry. Um, software engineering for investment bank. Is that fun? Like, I would think I've never worked for fintech or a bank, but it sounds challenging. Like, what do you even do there? I live in France, I in Paris, and I have a lot of friends who work in tech and they work for the banks here, and I'm like, what do you even do? Like, what do banks need so much programming for? No idea. I'm not in school anymore. I work in cybersecurity. I analyze malwares. I avoid security so much. Like, it feels like security is all about details, like you have to keep track of details, I feel like. And I feel like I'm the big picture person. Like, I want to have fun. I feel like if it were a car, I'd want a convertible. I want to drive through the sun. Like, I don't want to be, what's the race car that like is really precise? Is that F1? Like, I don't want to be the precise person, because you just got to do everything perfect. Like, maybe that's one reason I don't like write a lot of Rust code. But yeah, I want to have fun. And security feels like you have to know the different kinds of attacks. You have to always, you're basically in this state. I know there was this security guy in the last place I worked at. It looked like he was on the verge of a nervous breakdown constantly. He'd be like, "Oh my god, they found another attack vector on." I'm like, "You think about that? You think about that at night? Like, let it go." Yeah, you don't want me coding security stuff for you. School teacher for 5 years. That's so awesome. So does that mean you taught like computers or was it a different subject? And what did you think of it? A debugger for a class. Yeah, C++. plus plus. I used to do a lot of C++ plus plus a while ago, and it just felt like, especially like when people used multiple inheritance a lot, like it was just really hard to debug with all the operator overloading and the copy constructors and all this stuff. It was like, what's supposed to happen here? I don't know. Maybe I'm just not cut out for it. Another thing where you have to like look at all the details all the time. In operations managed hosting provider doing Linux stuff. Yeah. So Kubernetes was cool when I played around with it. This was for a game company that had to launch game servers. So like we used Terraform and then Kubernetes to scale it out and stuff. But like it's like worse than Git commands. Like none of it seemed intuitive to me. Like I was constantly looking shit up. I'm sure if you did it like as your main job every day, Kubernetes like, oh yeah, here's what it is. But like it just wasn't something that my brain could like put in a semantic network and be like, that's how it works. You know what I mean? Database development. Does that mean like you write database code? It's where the money are at. Tell me more. Tell me more about where the money are at. Oh, you taught maths. That's good. Math scientist. Yeah, databases seem pretty cool. People are always like, every company I've been at, like someone's writing a write ahead log for some reason. and you're like, aren't there databases that do this for you? um, I don't know. I used BigQuery a lot because the one company I was working with, I was like in charge of analytics, and I just liked, maybe it's just my approach. Like other people like complicated ETL and use all this software. I'm just like, dump all that shit in BigQuery, and I'm gonna write custom queries for it. And they weren't pretty queries, but it's amazing how fast BigQuery is. The problem was just that it got expensive, right? Like, but whatever. I wasn't paying the bills. I want to play around with DuckDB sometime because it seems like a really cool, like super fast telemetry engine sort of thing. All right, so maps. Maps are basically these percent sign things all the time. So um yeah, usually you will see it like this. Where you have the name of the key here, like handle, and then the value, elixir, and we can put in like tier, and we can call it like S. Right? So there's a map. This is how you'll often see it. And these things don't always have to be strings as values. They could be anything. Um, we'll add something else here. Um, like salary. And I'll make a 10,000 of whatever units. Um, but where are we here? So if we put that into M, now I can print out M. And now I can try to get tier out of it. And you can see my tier is S tier, right? Uh, this shows you that I typed in an atom. So all of these things are just syntactic sugar for this format, which is the actual like raw format of a map. Um, where you type in the atom for all the keys. Foo. The value of foo is bar. And something else. Time is the value is up. Oops, what did I do wrong? Am I running Teams or something? Why is it grabbing? Yeah, I'm running Zoom. I hate it when I like start Zoom by accident because it like tries to be stupid. What am I doing wrong here? I thought this worked, right? Oh, I didn't close the bar. That's why. There we go. All right, so that's the short way, but you saw the other way where I just used the key names, um, and then did colon. So this is how you extract values from the map. map there's a map module that gets and puts stuff inside of the map. So we can have map dot get, and we pass in a map. So we'll pass in A. Hold on. I need to assign this to A. And now we're going to get foo. And you can see that it returns bar. And if I try to get time, it gives me up. And if I try to get something else, it says nil. It doesn't exist. Now you'll see that there's an actual put in here also. And then someone was talking about like, oh, thanks for telling me about the bars. Sorry, I should have looked. That, you know, I thought these things were immutable. It is. So like when I do map dot put A, and then I give it two values like color and blue, you see that it adds color and blue here, right? But this is a new object, whatever you want to call it. A itself is not affected. So map put is sort of a misnomer because it's not actually putting these values into A. It's creating a new map. And that's one of the nice things about these immutable languages, because when you write a function, you never have to wonder like, oh, how did I mutate this thing? Where did I go wrong in my for loop or whatever? Because generally your inputs don't change. What is this saying here? I actually don't know what its point here is. Just that it can, if it's an atom, we can actually do a dot time. That's what it's saying, that we don't need to do a time. They both work, but if it's an atom, then you can just do a dot time, which is nice. Here is map updating. It's a little bit like map put, but the only thing is that the key already has to exist. So if I try to do, here I'm going to pass in my A, right? And here's a vertical bar. It's a lot like the head notation that we saw for list. And now we're going to give it a new, what's in A? Foo. So we do, foo is now, instead of, what was foo before, is bar. We're going to change it to 23. And now you can see that time and now foo is 23. A is still the same. It's not mutated. But if I try to add it for a thing that doesn't exist, it's going to say this symbol was not found. So it doesn't work for that. I'm surprised they haven't done pattern matching here yet. Let's see. Well, the thing I want to show you about this is that, like, if you're going to take in a map in a function, right? You can pattern match in the parameters. So let's say we want to get the name, username. And then we return your username is, and we're going to interpolate this in here, username. All right, does that look fair? So we're expecting a map in here that has a key called name and the value we're going to put inside of username. So now when I call foo, and I pass in, let's pass in a map that has name Bob. Your username is Bob. Um, in fact, I can pass in like other things in here, and it just ignores it. That's one of the things about pattern matching with maps is that it doesn't you don't need to have all the values in there. But you do need the name. So when you don't have the name and you just have like foo is bar, then it's going to say it couldn't find a function clause that matches it. And obviously, like we could make a default one here that will accept that, right? The way we did with this hello. Does that make sense for everyone? This is pretty cool stuff, I think. You'll see this kind of thing a lot. And if you wanted to save the whole map, like you could do this. This is basically taking in M, but now it's pattern matching here on M. Your username is, and I say full input is equal to inspect M. Inspect is just a way to turn things into a string easily. So now when I call it, oops, hello, what happened? There we go. And I pass in, I pass in name. Oh no, we'll call it foo bar, comma, name Tim. What? Didn't I say full input? No, that's right. Ooh, there we go. Your username is Tim, full input equals, and notice that it prints out the full map here, which was M. So I think they talked about the put in function here, which is kind of nice. These are like nice convenience functions so that you can put stuff into a submap, right? Yeah. Users, we have several users. Put in. Puts a value in nested structure at the path, right? So we kind of tell it where we want and then what we want to put in. Whoops. When I go, what happened? I don't think I ever did cond. Cond is basically just like if statements with else's. So notice it doesn't take, it's not like the case statement where it took in a variable. Here it's just kind of like stupidly evaluating each one. And then when it sees, when it sees something that matches, it does it. Yeah. And then when you want to have a default one, you put in a true so that at least there's always something that works. How did I get into maps somehow? I don't even know where that happened. Where are we in this list? We've been doing this for an hour. Is this enough for now? I think we're doing pattern matching. Yeah, I don't know where we were like starting to look at maps. It's a little funny with the anonymous functions because, like, you see, like, we can make a function here, assign it to a variable, instead of the way I did it, like, over here, right? You see how I put it inside of a module and then I have a function name? Here, you're just making a function and then you're assigning it to a variable. But then when you call it, you need this dot. The dot makes it clear you're calling an anonymous function stored in a variable as opposed to a function named add2. I don't know. I find it a little annoying. It mostly because it looks ugly in my opinion, but I don't know, maybe I'm just like a snob, right? Like, so I rarely use anonymous functions in Elixir. Don't really know why. So guards are really cool because you can basically add this thing like when to a function, and then you have all of these things like is map m. All right, so now it's basically like making sure that your input has the right type to it, or it satisfies whatever this guard is, because you can also do something like foo and take in a number, and then you can do something like when, what is it, is number n, and you can do something like and n is greater than 100. So it'll dynamically evaluate all of these and find the right function that fits it. So here we can have it without. And it kind of starts from the top down. So the first one it runs into that actually satisfies it is going to be the function that it actually calls. So now if we try calling this, sample.foo 200, it says big number. But if I just pass 2, then it just says some number because it's calling this other function. And these are just function clauses. These are syntactic shortcuts. Binaries are this whole chapter here is really annoying. It's basically like bit strings are really annoying in Erlang and Elixir. Keyword lists. These are basically lists that have like map values in them, and they're basically used for optional arguments to a function. So you can pass in extra parameters and you get it as in the function as this keyword list that you can look at. But they're just lists, you know, they're just lists that have this format. Nothing really special. Oh, this is where somehow we got to maps as key value pairs, right? And then we get into modules, which I did here. They're basically ways to set namespaces. Nothing surprising here. And we talked about Elixir script files earlier. Almost all the time, we're writing EX files. I think all the test scripts are EXS files, though. Here, we can look here. Yeah, so you can see here that unit tests are EXS files. They're basically scripts that are run. This is how you do default arguments. I'm not teaching anything. I'm just like looking at documents, making random comments. Yeah, Elixir is pretty fast to learn. I don't think you even need to know most of this stuff to do most things. There's like annotation things that are good to know. But not important. This is really important. So you need to, if you want to have a constant in your code, you basically do this at thing. So you can do something like pi, and then you do 3.14, and you can say big number. I think this will work. Yeah. So this is a constant in a sense. It's basically just a macro definition that says this is this. And so when it sees this, it's just going to put it here. I guess I probably can do this, right? I think. I don't know. No, it doesn't. So I guess I do need that. Yeah. But the problem is that these macro definitions are local to this module. So you can't like access it outside of it. So yeah, sometimes like functions, and def p as opposed to def is the private function. So people can't use that outside of your module. This is really important, structs, but I don't really want to talk about it right now. It's basically your main data structure, right? So you can assign it to a module. Yeah, everything else is kind of like using libraries now, maps, uh, MapReduce, that sort of stuff. So great, you know Elixir now. You just have to learn def struct. Here, let's do it real quick. Let's do like the shitty version of it. So if you want to define some kind of like, like in C you have a struct, right? Or a class object or something like that. The kind of like cheesy way to do it in Elixir is something called a def struct. And in the def struct, it looks just like a map, right? So you're going to give it I actually think you can pass in a map here. Anyway, so we're going to give it stuff. Yeah, I think we can do it like this. Name, age. There we go. I think that works. So it's basically saying the sample module has a structure with a name and an age, right? So now we can return struct sample, and then we just give it, oh, what I do wrong? I don't know. Okay, so yeah. So samples can have a name and they can have an age. They're both optional. And bar is going to return us a sample. So let's run this. So we do sample.bar, and you can see it returned us a sample structure with name and age. It knew that sample had these defined keys associated with it. And since we didn't add anything with age, it gave us a nil. And now we can make something called handle sample. And in here, it passes a sample, right? In here. Got my sample. We're going to print it out. There we go. Why did you stop working? Hello? Isn't that weird? File modified by external process. What process could be modifying it? Sample.bar gives me this sample, so I can do s is equal this thing, and then I can do sample.handle sample, and I can pass in s. Got my sample, Sam, age nil. You see how that worked, right? Now the other thing was that sample could assign values, default values. So we can give it age 100. Now you see, because I didn't ask, do anything, it says 100. And now I'm going to do sample dot process, handle process? What was it called? Handle sample s. And so it prints it out. And remember we learned about pattern matching, right? So we can do something like name, comma, age. And now we can do something more specific here. We can do name is equal to name, and age is equal to age. Does this make sense? And now we don't even need s anymore because, we're getting everything we care about out of it. Yeah. So something's not happy. Sample, name, age, do. Errors have been logged. What the hell are you talking about? That's because I am doing a bad job. You have to give it the key names and then the values get pattern matched. Just happens that I'm using the same name for both of them. So here we go. S is equal to sample.bar. I've made a sample now, and I can now do sample.handle sample s. And it says got my sample, and it prints it out, right? There's another thing is that we can use the same updating. God damn it. We can update S here, the sample, and change age to 10. And now you see we've modified the sample, or we made a new sample actually, with a new age, and that's what gets passed in instead. Does this make sense? And obviously we can go as far as to say sample dot, was it called foo? Was that what it was? No. I don't remember. I'm out of steam. I'm so glad that you got into Nyx with that. I really have to do Nyx. I feel like I beat myself up because I don't like keep doing some of these series, but I run out of steam too. God, this is a shitty Elixir tutorial. It's the shittiest. Oh my god. I, this is why I can't like teach stuff I already know because I'm just terrible. Like the most boring like teacher. Anyway, I think next time we're gonna play with Cobalt because then we can both be lost together, and maybe that will be fun, right? Like we'll just be like, "What the fuck is this?" I really want to figure out how to learn Haskell though, because every time I start, I just kind of like fizzle out, and it's a language I really want to finish learning. Yeah, maybe I need like to know what I want to build with Haskell in order to like learn it. I just don't know. I don't know how to get myself super excited by it. Maybe I'm pushing myself too much. This is what life is though, right? Like we don't have all the answers. We just kind of like get by and just try our best. Anyway, if you're not on my Discord server, you can join. I think the link is, yes, let's go Cobalt. Let's yeah, so the link to the Discord is in the stream description, I hope. If it's not, let me know because it's kind of should be. Um what else? I have a YouTube channel, so if you're watching on Twitch, find a YouTube channel. All the shit goes on there eventually. I also post on PeerTube if you're trying to avoid big tech. Yeah, but if you have any ideas of stuff you want to talk about or see, like I was thinking like shit that I don't always remember, like let's look at Git really closely and look at the commands. Maybe that's kind of nice. I still want to do Nix Flakes. So, yeah, let's do it. All right, guys, I'm going to call it here. I'm dead. It was only an hour and a half. Shit. I remember I used to be able to stream for 4 or 6 hours. Like, what the fuck? How did I do that? I think I'm just like, I think I just need to find some motivation here. All right, guys. Love you. See you soon. Bye.